Hi, welcome to a live Israel First television program where we're coming to you from the studio live. If you've just caught us on YouTube, if you're not watching us live, we welcome you as well. You're very welcome to our studio in Jerusalem. This is Israel First. My name is Martin Blackham. I'm with my wife Nathalie Blackham, and with a program that brings you news and features from the land of Israel. And in the news, just as we're coming into the studio, which is affecting all of you, so we realise, isn't it, Nathalie, that everybody's affected by this, is the situation with coronavirus. So we wanted to give you a quick update as to what's happening for Israel, because we know many of you around the world are keen on Israel. You're watching Israel, you're watchmen for Israel, or you're reporting to Friends for Israel, or you're meeting a group for Israel. So the situation with coronavirus is that shopping centres, shopping malls have reopened only this week, and but as nearly 2,000 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported. There is 310 people are in serious condition, and there's approximately 14,000, nearly 15,000 people who are active cases, as the health ministry says, Nathalie. Mm-hmm. According to updated figures from the Israel Health Ministry, since the outbreak of the epidemic in the spring, 348,000 people have been affected and as carriers, and at present there are 14,905 active cases in the state of Israel. Now, these numbers might seem small, especially if you're from the United States or a country which has a large population, but you have to bear in mind that Israel is a smaller country with a population of about
9 million.
9 million. So these are large numbers. There's 588 coronavirus carriers are in hospital, another 217.
Yeah, and not only that, it's like 9 million, but also the country is little. So everybody is like flat and people are around each other, and the community is very close-knit. America and a lot of countries, they are like a lot of land, so it's affecting the people too.
Yeah. Now, if you've just joined us and you're watching on YouTube Live, and we will let you know if we can continue on this format. It would be great to be able to do programs on YouTube. But if you are tuning in live, then you can comment. Mm-hmm. There is a live chat, which we'll try and have a look at during the show and speak to you. If you're watching and it's a recorded version, then please do email us at info@israelfirst.org. Now, we're just coming up, as we come into the studio and as we're making this program, we're coming up to the season of Hanukkah, the season of lights. It's the winter in Israel. And the health ministry has asked the government, even today as we've come into the studio to speak to you, it says to approve a series of restrictions ahead of the start of Hanukkah. They've been trying to restrict the amount of gatherings for Hanukkah. And again today, last time it was the government, this time it's the health ministry. And what they're saying is the ministry demands that gatherings of more than 2 people who are not from a nuclear family be prevented between 5:30 p.m. and 12 a.m. Shops and businesses.
Which is again a big thing, because like Hanukkah, you know how it is. By the way, I have a beautiful book here, which is called The Light That Unites. The Night That Unites. And it's like a family festival. And not only family festival, you will invite people, and it's like you will lit up the candles together, and you eat together. So it's a big thing, not to be able to have Hanukkah together.
Yeah.
But
and it's the biggest celebration in the winter for the Jewish people who don't celebrate Christmas but celebrate Hanukkah, and they meet in families. They eat. One of the favorite things they eat is sufganiyot, which is like a donut, very delicious, but you can put on weight. And those are things that are selling at the moment. So it's very much, I say that because it's very much a time of eating together, and if they're restricted from doing that, then it is a big thing. And for a lot of the Orthodox Jewish people, it's very confusing for them, because normally it's a time when they light the candles, isn't it?
But not only that, I was learning with this beautiful book because we're learning more and more every year, more about Hanukkah. And I was reading, because I love the passage of, Abraham goes to Mount Moriah, which is the place of the temple, and he goes to sacrifice his son. Obviously, he's not offer his son, because God says so to him, but it's not that he was God didn't want him to do it, but to see if he was ready to do it. Okay, we need to make sure about that. And I think it's also a picture of God giving us his son, Yeshua. And like there was something also parallel with that. But when you see this amazing story, you can imagine how Abraham and Isaac, after the relationship was with each other. And not only that, Isaac was not a child like we think very often, but he was in his 30s. When you read different the sages, the Jewish sages are speaking about that. But the story is, and I was reading that this morning, that when Abraham goes there on Mount Moriah, is written, he take 2 servants with him, and he say, you will stay there, poor, and me and my son, we will go there, okay, which is cool. And there is a very deep teaching in it, Mart. You would really enjoy that, because it's really beautiful. Is that the world usually always look at what's happening right now, but Abraham with his son is going to look at the future, the messianic era, that God is preparing something, that he wants to come and inhabit the place with us. Like when he says, so I want a temple to be with you, not to be in the temple, but to be with you. And so all of this story of Hanukkah is in that. And again, with the lights. And, they speak about this light, again, amazing, Mart, that this light was not about the light of the sun, of the moon, is the first light that God has given in Genesis.
Wow.
Okay? So is that when you bring the light of Hanukkah, is that connected to this light, or one day will come?
Wow. It's amazing, because it's such a kind of a big thing in Israel, the Hanukkah and the lights everywhere. And, in the city of Jerusalem, if you, this year, it's more difficult to go because of the curfews and stuff. But if you could go, you can see they put outside their homes a candelabra, usually in a case, glass case or a plastic case. And they put the candles out for everybody to see. So all the houses have these lights everywhere, and we were privileged last year to be able to visit Jerusalem and go and see all the lights.
Yeah.
And so, it is really an important time for them. They're still able to put the candles out, but obviously it's very sad that they can't.
Which is interesting, because most
have
of the
people coming, Nathalie.
I know most of the festival usually is inside of the house, but Hanukkah is like showing the light outside. So I think it's
spreading the light to the other people.
Yes, exactly.
And in the news as well in Israel, we have the possibility, it's looking very like it, of Israel going to elections, for those who are interested in politics. For the 4th time in less than 2 years, Israel's parliament has passed a preliminary bill to dissolve itself, a move that threatens to break apart an already fractured coalition we have at the present time, a coalition of Likud and blue and white, very unlikely coalition, but a coalition nevertheless. A fractured coalition government, and trigger a 4th election in less than 2 years. The vote for the dissolution bill, which is just going through today, is not final. So, it's not the end of the story. These things it's very interesting. Politics in Israel, you can change every minute. So we might not be having an election, but if it does go through, and the readings, the bill that's going through the Knesset, the House of Parliament for Israel, the election date will be the 16th of March 2021. MK Eytan Ginsburg, the head of the Knesset House Committee, said on Tuesday, that's just yesterday, that although the election has not been approved, officials should begin planning as if it had been. The committee votes amid yet another upheaval in Israel's political landscape after Likud MP and Netanyahu rival Gideon Saar announced just yesterday he was leaving the party quite shocking, really, because he's been a real important figure in the Likud party, and he was forming a rival party, a rival political movement. The head of the Central Elections Committee, however, warned just yesterday that Israel, if it was headed towards new elections before vaccines can be significantly mitigate the pandemic, safeguards will need to be put in place. In other words, it's very difficult to have an election during a pandemic. They're trying everything they can to keep people safe, and the last thing they need, really, Nathalie, is to have an election when there's a pandemic.
Now, may I give my little thing about that? It's very interesting because, we are looking at what's happening all around the world, in Israel, but also around the world. And you can see a lot of governments who are not, like even in America is the same, is like still not put all, it's like everything is, you are not sure. And it never been this way for so many governments, okay? And I was really thinking hard, and I was also listening to some teaching, and people who are also really looking in the Torah where we are at, and we know that we're coming so close to the final redemption as we speak, okay? So when is the final redemption? It means that the kingdom of God is going to come into the earth. Now, it's like pandemonium right now all around the world. But when I was praying one day, I was feeling, hey, you know what? But there are acceleration in all these things. But on the other side, in the spiritual side, there is angel, there is people on the other side who know more of what's going to happen, and we can feel that the kingdom of God is come on the earth. And because of that, some governments are going down because it will be a reality, and we need to know that it will be a reality. So the governments of the world are going down because the government of God is coming. So we need to keep really thinking, focusing on what God is doing, what He's going to do. Like Abraham is what I was speaking. He was looking there. He wasn't looking just now. He was looking at the final redemption, what is going to happen. So we keep our hope up.
And it's amazing, talking about all the spiritual things going on, because, you say, well, what's happening in the land of Israel with the rabbis and with the Jewish people? How are they thinking? Well, it's a very tough time. But one of the amazing things is, in the middle of everything, Rabbi Yehudah Glick has decided to run for president, which is big news. Many of you will have seen him. If you go on to lower down on our YouTube channel, you can watch an interview I did with him. And we've done a couple of interviews with Yehudah Glick. And it says, former MK and Temple Mount activist Rabbi Yehudah Glick plans to run for president of Israel. The dynamic US-born figure who broke with some of the Likud's party's traditional stances says he's most fit to heal the nation's rifts, Nathalie. Rabbi Yehudah Glick is a former member of the Israeli parliament, longtime advocate for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount. Many of you know him for that. Has told members of the Israeli parliament that he will run for the job when Reuven Rivlin, who is the current president of Israel, tenure ends in the summer of 2021, so that's just next year. Rabbi Glick, asking the lawmakers to support him, said he was the only candidate who fits the role. Over this is what Yehudah said, over Rosh Hashanah, I sat with myself for 2 whole days and decided that I will run for the job. Rabbi Glick told the Knesset members, I see what is happening today in the nation, and I'm pained by the divisions and rifts. I miss the days when we were a model society, a society of solidarity, when we strove to be a light unto the nations, coming back to Hanukkah and the reason they put the candles out. We were a light unto the nations rather than fighting and hating one another. We have to go back to that. Mm-hmm. Rabbi Glick is a United States religious Zionist, and he was elected, many of you may not know this, but he was elected as the representative of Judea and Samaria for the Likud party. But he was as he was in parliament, he was very open to other political parties. If Rabbi Glick is elected, this is the amazing thing, if he's elected as president, he will be the first Israeli president to go onto Temple Mount, to visit Temple Mount, Nathalie, which would be absolutely amazing.
Which is interesting, because you see, we know him well. He's a friend. And we know, like, sometime in the politics, the people think that he's a mashuga, I think they said, like somebody who is crazy. But he's not. He's fanatic about God and about the Temple Mount. And I tell you, he's been through a lot in his life, and he loves the people. He's zealous with like a warm heart, and he loves the people. I can tell you, we know him. We saw how he is with people, because sometimes when people go into politics, well, you know, they change a lot. And we can
the power goes to their head a bit.
I know. And we can see him like really carry on, because he knows that the Temple Mount is important. He knows that it's the Kiseh, the throne of God, and that he wants to honor God, and he wants the people also to learn to honor God. And not only is very open for the nations, because he knows about Isaiah 56, like the house of the Lord will be a house of a house of prayer for all nations. So he knows that, and is really what drives him to do things. And being a president is not like in many countries, is more a place of honor to try to unite the people, and is really what he's trying to do. Unite the people of Israel, but also unite the people around the temple, because things are moving on and we should be excited. You know, I was reading also in Isaiah 62 or 63, I can't remember exactly, but it was a place where it's like we can see the time accelerating, and God is making it accelerating, and he's very eager for the thing that's happening, because again, I repeat, it's like it's going to be the redemption, the final world, the final redemption, which means it's a messianic time that is coming, and a messianic time means that it's like a Shabbat time for millennium, which means we will be more than we will be doing. And so God is making us knowing more to be and not just to do all the time. It's just amazing. So we have to keep hope.
If you've just joined us, you got through to the Israel First television program. Today is an absolutely amazing day because we're broadcasting for the first time live. It's not that Nathalie and I have never done live television, but it's the first time we've done it since being in Israel and for the program. And so we're very excited about it. It's live. If you've just tuned into YouTube, you can actually send us a message on the YouTube Messenger system. If you're watching this at a later date, we greet you also. And don't forget, email us with your comments at info@israelfirst.org. Well, one of the headlines of the news as we've come into the studio is about Israel sending an astronaut, its second astronaut, into space, Nathalie. And it says that Eytan Stiibbe, he's a former Israeli fighter pilot, to head to the International Space Station later next year. Officials announced at an exciting ceremony at the president's residence. This is a day of national joy and great pride, said President Reuven Rivlin. An Israeli pilot with a blue and white flag embroidered on his shoulder will prove once again, as we have been showing here for 72 years, that even the sky isn't our limit. And it's absolutely amazing, really. It says that the upcoming launch will put Stiibbe on the International Space Station for 200 hours, which he will use to conduct a series of unprecedented experiments that are intended to advance Israeli technologies and scientific developments by researchers and startups. Stiibbe will travel on a shuttle launched from Florida at the end of 2021 next year. And at 62, he will be one of the oldest astronauts on record, Nathalie. So amazing. That's absolutely fantastic news. We're very pleased about that.
Yeah, not only that, when you think like Israel is a tiny country, first of all, very young, only 72 years old, who was in a lot of war because all the countries around didn't want them to carry on living. So when you see all these things, it's quite amazing.
And as well, talking of space and technology, Israel is to launch a second spaceship to the moon. That's also in the news. The first Beresheet spacecraft was largely successful despite not having landed on the moon, very sadly. It was intended to land on the moon, but they're sending Beresheet 2. Beresheet 2.0 is the name for it. It's expected to complete the task. Maurice Kahn, the primary sponsor of IL's Beresheet spacecraft has announced the funding of a second Israeli spacecraft, Beresheet 2. And we followed this story, the Beresheet 1 story. Absolutely amazing as Israel was sending a spacecraft to the moon, only one of a very few countries to do that. And Khan says he intends to lead the project of the second Israeli spacecraft to complete the task of landing on the moon with a new group of donors. The team has already been appointed and will be led by Khan. I've decided we're actually going to establish Beresheet 2, he said. We're going to build a new spacecraft, we're going to put it on the moon, and we're going to complete the mission.
Now, wait. Yeah, this is just amazing. But I want to say something else to the people. By the way, our Facebook is not working anymore. So just to know, now we're doing the YouTube live straight away. And so when you want to connect, please carry on connecting with us and tell your friends that we are doing that now if they want some news from Israel. And that's it. I think it's very important, isn't it, Martin?
Yes. So we were getting some messages through. They're a bit far away from where we're sitting in the studio. So we'll have to kind of work on that, how we get your messages.
Yeah.
But please send your messages. And thank you for the message that we've just received. We're going to work on a system to be able to read them live out on air. Yes, the Facebook isn't working at the moment, but you can still contact us through email and through the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. So please stay in touch with us, keep in touch with us, and we will endeavor to keep in touch with you.
I know, and when you were speaking about Beresheet, maybe people don't know, but the name Beresheet is the first name in the Torah, which is at the beginning. So very interesting to see the name of the, what is the name of this satellite? No, it's not
spaceship.
a satellite, spaceship, yeah.
And we've just had the messages from the East. We can see a message, and next time we'll arrange when we do the program to be able to read them out, because that'd be really nice. But keep sending them in. We've got your message. Thank you so much for that. And if you're watching on YouTube, then please contact us as we're doing a live program. The first time we've ever done this, the Israel First television program live. So this is very new. So we're learning all the things. And we are going to bring you news, features, and we may even be able to do interviews at some stage. We'll see.